Okay, well, so everyone, it looks like we are live. So first off, thank y'all for joining us this afternoon for our 23rd episode of Living in the Texas Hill Country. And today we are going to talk about seeding. So this is something that Megan and I, before we hopped on, we were kind of chit-chatting that this is the perfect time. Megan, you had said that you said you just sowed y'all's greenhouse, I
Just for
believe.
the greenhouse, yep.
Okay,
Getting
so
ready to sow our restoration plantings. So exciting time of year.
so 'tis the season, and it's one of those things where, even if it takes you another year, you're ready for next year.
Mhm.
So we're gonna get things kicked off. So I guess my first question is like, what are some of the how do so obviously I said that you said that this is kind of the time of year to start planting seeds, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Are there any other times of year that are ideal for planting seeds? And I guess kind of like
Yeah.
give us why is the times of year, why are they good times of year to plant?
Yes. So, being the person that's in the seeding industry, I actually look at the entire calendar year. People think seeding might just be a week that pops up here and there in an ideal time window. No, we're considering it as a year-round thing. So, the projects that I'm seeding this coming February, at the end of February, we will be using a no-till seed drill. So that's getting planted directly into the ground, and those seeds are pretty well insulated. But those are projects that have been prepped for almost a year. So if you're just starting your project out, you're not too late because you're probably in that prep stage. And a year might seem like a long time to be preparing, but if you want a really successful project, that's what it takes.
I think it's one of those things where we always think, oh yeah, a year, like that's such a long time. But in reality, it's like, I can't believe like 2026 is already here.
It's wild.
Wait, I just got used to writing 25 at the end of like all of my dates, and now 2026 is here. So I'm like, okay, so a year can go
Yeah,
very, very fast. And I
yeah.
guess I did not mention. So Megan, who are you with? What is the
So
organization?
Yeah, so I'm Meghan Peoples. I am the Central Texas Director for the Texas Native Seeds Program, this is a long title, so prepare yourself. It's a division of the Caesar Kleberg Wildlife Research Institute out of Texas A&M University, Kingsville. But we are remote workers for A&M Kingsville and the Caesar Kleberg Institute up in Central Texas. I office out of Stephenville at a local AgriLife center.
I was gonna say, I think you have me beat for like a long title. Like sometimes I feel like I have a very long title, but that's quite
It's a
that's quite a
mouthful every time.
it is quite a mouthful. But the short version of it is you pretty well live, breathe seeds
Seeds.
pretty well, you know, all day, every day.
So to
So
like give, I guess, a brief overview of what the program does,
yes,
like
please do.
my elevator pitch is we commercialize native plants. That's the simplest way I can say it, but that process can take 5 to 10 years. So we go out and we do wild collections of native plant species. We bring them into research and evaluation. We select best performers, and then we give those genetics to the commercial seed growers for restoration projects across the state.
So y'all are kind of, I'm not gonna say the only reason, but y'all have a very big, you play a very big part in why we have some really good native seed mixes across the state.
Yes.
And y'all, and that program does cover the entire state of Texas. There are other U's across the state.
Yes. So we started in South Texas as South Texas natives, but there was a need across the whole state. So now we have regions in West Texas and Alpine, in the Panhandle and Central Texas where I'm at, in the coastal prairies and in the piney woods.
And actually, so when I did my master's at Sul Ross, oh, I can't remember his name. I can see his face in my head.
All in.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah,
All Texas.
so he was out there. It's one of those things where you're like, who's that guy? And then they said he's a seed guy and he works for Kingsville. And it was one of those things at the time. I didn't quite realize why he was there, but as I, went through my master's, I realized, oh, so whenever we decided to do seeds, I was like, these guys would be the ones to come and talk with us. Okay.
Yeah.
So as I warned Megan, we got off a little bit of track. It's related, but we're gonna circle back around. So we talked about it sort of now it's kind of a really good time to start, if not start planning to plant seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what would be some like disadvantages of if you decide to plant seeds, I'll say not at a peak
Mm-hmm.
time?
Yeah. So to just like kind of summarize, if you do have a prep site and you are ready to go, February, March is a great time of year. The seeds can germinate right away and get going. If you need a little bit more time, another great window in Texas is September, October time period. And that is arguably the better time of year to plant forb seeds. Forbs are flowering species. And a lot of times in Texas, we actually kind of have a biennial growth habit in our forbs, which means that they grow in fall and flower in the spring. So if you're a pollinator person, love a pollinator garden, or if that's your goal, then you might want to be planting those seeds in the fall. Also, it depends on the methodology you're using. If you are broadcasting, sometimes that fall seeding is also a great opportunity for the seeds to kind of work their way down to soil level, to absorb water and achieve some cold dormancy requirements in some of the forb species. So fall can be a great time for broadcasting. If you are drilling, you kind of expand your window. Drilling seeds is actually putting the seeds into the ground and covering them back up with soil using a tractor implement. And so if you're doing large acreage, that's definitely the preferred method. And you can expand your window because the seeds are growing into the soil. They're a little bit more insulated. So you can plant at a more broad time of year.
Okay. And so obviously summer, not a good time. They're
Not ideal.
probably more than likely going to either become bird food, some
Yeah.
kind of animal food, or you're going to cook the poor little babies.
Exactly. Yeah. So summer and winter, you don't want the heater on because they seeds will dry out. So that puts them under stress, and that's also not a good time for them to be germinating under such stressful conditions. Same kind of thing in winter. You can freeze out some seeds, or they might just go into deeper dormancies, waiting for an ideal time of year. So you'd rather target those ideal time of year so that you maximize the success of the seeds that you bought.
Gotcha. Okay. So obviously, like you had mentioned that, you know, the program pretty well goes out, collects the seeds, and then, I'll like distribute, is that would be a appropriate term, distributes
Sure.
them to some of the native seed companies. So obviously there's like a multitude of seed companies here in Texas,
Hmm.
let alone across the nation. So there's like bukus of different options out there. When it comes to actually purchasing seeds, obviously there's some seed companies that are going to, I'll say, have a higher quality, not necessarily the seed product, but the chance of basically mixing in some seeds that you don't want
Hmm.
in your seed mixture. There's some companies that do a little bit better job at it than others.
Yeah.
And with AgriLife, we can't necessarily promote one or the other, but are there some things to look at when trying to like narrow your focus as to what companies, some sort of like, I'll say red flags for companies or green flags, be like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's go with these guys, or let's maybe not go with this company.
Yes. So I can definitely say the seed companies that are most productive in the state and the ones that we partner with. Down in San Antonio, Douglas King Seeds, Turner Seeds for Central Texas, and Bammert for almost the entire state. They're one of the biggest seed growers of native plants in the nation. And then if you're on the eastern part of the state, Roundstone Seed is another great company. You also have Native American, which has a little bit of a different model. They've got a great magazine, a lot of awesome diversity. So it kind of depends on what your goals are. Um, I, as a plant nerd, will always recommend that you do a custom seed mix. A custom
Okay.
seed mix is something that you yourself have put together. If you want to do a pollinator blend, there's a lot of great diversity out there. But some species might sneak into your mix that might not be your desirable species, might be non-native species. So I think it's always wise to be an educated consumer, and to really target what you yourself want for your project.
Okay, and see, and I didn't know how common it was to do like a custom seed mix. I always thought it was just an option of, well, they have a pollinator mix, that's what you got to buy. I did not realize that you could go custom. So, well, I guess those seed companies, or do you have any like resources as where people can go to figure out what would be good seed mixes for their area? Because obviously, property to property is going to differ greatly.
Oh, for
Even
sure.
from one neighbor to the next, it's going to differ.
Yeah.
But what are some good places to go for people to figure that stuff out?
Yes, so you can definitely go to our website since we are in the seeding industry. We kind of have arranged a general purpose seed mix for each county in the state. So you can go down and there's an interactive map that can help you just get started, kind of give you the meat and potatoes of your seed mix, so to say, and then you can customize it from there. But all of the commercial growers should pretty much be able to have that custom seed mix option. You just kind of build it and send it their way. Um, when it comes to seed mixes that are already put together, a lot of them are great, especially the simple ones. But if you're getting a pollinator mix, for example, with 60 different species in it, you're going to get a lot of options.
Yeah.
And some of that seed might not do well on your site or might not be your target species. So the custom seed mix will kind of give you the biggest bang for your buck, and then you'll know for sure that no European species or invasive species are sneaking in there.
Yeah, because I guess if it is a custom seed mix, like they are literally going in and it's like pulling like, it's like making a
Yeah,
cake. Like they're pulling
exactly.
all the different ingredients and throwing it in a bag or however they ship. I guess they ship seeds in a bag. I'm telling you, Megan, my plant knowledge is lacking, especially when it comes to growing things
Yeah,
from seeds.
yeah. It's a
So
brave new world.
yeah, so I guess with that, let's talk about like from like A to Z, step one to 100. What are the steps, say you've decided what you're going to do. What are those preparation steps to get you to the green stuff, the green
Yeah.
pretty stuff on the other end?
Yeah. So my first step, whenever I'm going out to do a restoration project, I will go and do a site visit. And what I'm looking for at the site visit is the different conditions of the site. And I'm also looking for a model plant community. So I really like starting, with that site visit because you get to learn some important metrics of your site. Most important, your exposure. Are we talking full sun? Are we talking part shade? Are there trees around or structures that are going to change the amount of sunlight your plants are receiving? The other big thing is the moisture on that site. Are we at a low point? Is water draining there? Or are we at a hilltop where water drains away? This is going to change the species in your mix. And then the easier way to get this kind of information is to go out and look at a model plant community. So you can either go to a local preserve or a local prairie that's still intact, or you can look at your site and see the plants that are actually growing there. If you're not great at plant identification, that's okay. There is a multitude of apps
There
available.
are.
My favorite is iNaturalist because
Good
it
one.
uses local identification data along with recognition data to really give you the best kind of IDs on those plants.
Mhm.
So you can get a sense of what's growing in your area and what kind of species would be appropriate in your mix. So that's always where I start. When you're out looking at plants, you're most likely going to see some of the big four grasses. Big four grasses being little blue stem, hopefully big blue stem, Indian grass, switchgrass, and then some of the more minor species that you might not know about. And iNaturalist will really help you get there with identifying those species. In the hill country, you might see hairy grama, different types of drop seeds. So iNaturalist will be your friend in those identification
And
process.
I will say, I will save y'all a headache. Like, go when the stuff is green because I mean, I will say some of the grasses, some of them, like I would say the grommas are fairly easy to identify when they are in their dormant state, which is
Yeah.
right now. Um, but save yourself some headache. Try to go
Hmm.
when it's green because it makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah. So that's
And
what's gonna definitely help you going to the site and seeing what you're working with. It's gonna help you put together those species, and then you can really also make a plan when you're there. There's another really important component I'm looking for when I do a site visit, and that's what is existing on the site that I'm trying to seed out of. It kind of comes down to three categories. I've got a native area that I'm looking to increase diversity in. Maybe I want some more flowering species, but I love my grass, or I want to increase grass cover. So that's my native area. Then you have your invasive community. This is most often the community we are trying to restore. At some point, it was plowed or tilled, or it was a construction site, and the native cover went away. And now we are looking to bring it back, but we are competing with an invasive plant community. That most often is KR blue stem or Bermuda grass, really tough, hard to get rid of species. And then the third category is the mixed category, where you both of those things, invasive plants and native plants, are occupying the same space. So those are the kind of three variables we're looking at, and each one of those will require different type of prep for seeding.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. So it's not necessarily a one sort of one scenario fits all. It's what depending on what you have is what your next step would
Yes.
be in the process. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you want to, we can go from there and I can kind of tell you how to address those different situations.
Let's do it. Let's
Okay,
dive in head
let's break it
first.
down. This is going to be more information than anyone wanted on seeding.
Hey, no, this is going to help me because we have some seeding projects on some property that we have. So I am all for this.
Yay. Okay, good. Um, so the native community is obviously ideal. That one's going to be fun. You're
I
just
was
going
gonna
to
say
be
it's
ready to go.
probably the easiest one of the three, like a
Exactly.
dream.
Exactly. So most of the time, people in that situation are contacting me because they just want more diversity. They probably have a lot of little blue stem, and they're like, "Man, I would just love to see more flowering species." So in that seed mix, we're targeting all forbs, which are flowering plants, and maybe we're even plugging them out, which is growing little plants and actually planting them into the prairie. So that one, good for you guys. You're ready to go. Have fun with it. That's not normally the camp the rest of us
I
are
was
in.
gonna say they're probably like the 10% of, or maybe even not even 10%, like the
Yeah.
5% of like all the people. They're like, well, I have plans. I just want a greater diversity.
Yeah. No, and they think that, I'm very particular about my words. They think little blue stem, they're like, it's invasive. I'm like, it's not
No,
invasive. It's a native plant. I'm like, you guys don't even, these are not even real problems.
no,
So the people with real problems are the ones with a monoculture of an invasive species. So
yep.
we're talking about an old Bermuda grass hay field or what was a parking lot and now is just KR blue stem. So those are going to be the more challenging plant communities to address, and that's the ones that are going to really require that almost year-long prep cycle, which is intimidating, but it really goes by fast, I promise. So, the way you address an invasive plant community when you're trying to reset the system back to native is going to be most likely, depending on the acreage that you are dealing with. Some people are not going to want to hear this, but we're going to take the nuclear option. Because these plants are also taking the nuclear option. KR blue stem and Bermuda grass have, their own biologic weapons going on in the soil that are pushing out our native plant communities. So it's going to come to herbicide to really reset that community. Some people have success with solarization, which is essentially like tarping an area and superheating it,
You
but it's
bake
going to
it.
take just as long, and it's may or may not be uglier and less successful. So it kind of like, do the ends justify the means kind of thing. I know it'll hurt some people, but we are trying to get native plants back.
Mhm.
So we recommend glyphosate Roundup, which is only active in contact with foliage. So it's one of those things you spray it on active foliage and let that plant community absorb that chemical and then die back. And Bermuda grass and Cara blue stem are going to come back at you 3 to 4 times in a single warm season. So we're talking about 3 to 4 applications of herbicide to really knock back that plant community. We are waiting for the rains to come. We're going to spray it. It's going to bounce back. We're going to spray it again. It's going to bounce back. So 3 to 4 applications should do it, and you will be ready to seed the next year. And I'll show you some pictures later of what that kind of looks like, neutralizing an existing plant community so you can be really successful seeding, and you will be. If you really put in the effort, it's going to be successful afterwards.
And so you're gonna look a little ugly. Your property's gonna look a little ugly for
Yes.
a little bit because
Yeah.
you cannot put seeds in the soil right after you spray because you're going to end up killing everything
Mm-hmm.
that you just because there's going to be that residual. So yes, you're going to have she's going to be bald. She's going to be
Yep.
bald for a little bit, but you got to be bald before you can be beautiful sometimes.
Yes. And it's going to be worth it because if you plant into Bermuda, best of luck to you. I have tried it myself, and Bermuda grass will always win. There is a reason why we plant it in
In our
every
yards.
lawn because it is one of the most aggressive and competitive plants on the planet.
That's why
So,
they make, yep, that's why they make huge fields of it and
yeah,
cut it for coastal. It's yeah, she's hardy. She's
she
very
is. She
hardy.
is.
So I think personally, like from a personal perspective, I would rather have Bermuda than KR. But then again, I mean, they're both kind of bad. Maybe it's because K
Mhm.
because Bermuda can actually like feed stuff versus KR not much.
Yeah, right.
Maybe that's just I realize that's you're the plant person. You're probably like, why would you ever say that?
Uh-huh. No, KR, I would consider KR public enemy number one
Yeah.
of the Texas plant world because it's sneaky. It sneaks in there. At least like Bermuda grass, like you can kind of outcompete it sometimes in height,
Yeah.
and it doesn't like height and moisture. And so some of our native stuff can actually outgrow it. But
Mhm.
KR,
That stuff is tough. Every like you can't really burn it. I mean, you can, but they have not found a really good method other than like you said, glyphosate
the
to take it
nuclear.
out. Mhm.
Because anything you do to hurt it somehow makes it stronger.
It does. It does. That stuff is very persistent, very tough. You
Yeah.
got to hand it. I mean, I guess it's kind of like a it's like a true Texan. Like it's just it's very, very tough, very durable, but not something we want. So anyway, now I told you, Megan, I will derail the conversation. It's related, but totally off
Yeah.
topic. So
Yeah.
let's get back. So we've nuked the property basically.
Yep.
What's next?
So what's next is that's when that February seeding comes in. So that's when we're gonna, depending on your acreage, you can broadcast if you're on small acreage, or you can drill seed if you're on larger acreage. I would say that's probably like an acre and under, you're broadcasting
Okay.
over 5 acres. I mean, yeah, I guess 5 acres is kind of my cutoff.
Mhm.
Um, you can broadcast under 5 acres. If you're doing any more than 5 acres, you probably just want to bring in a drill seed. Um, and you can work with different programs in the state. Texas Parks and Wildlife has one that they lend out. So you can kind of just get on their schedule and you rent the tractor, you have the tractor, and you pull their equipment. So they've got a lot of great programs to kind of share that work with you.
Yeah, and so and just I guess just to go back and clarify real quick is so you nuke your site, say you nuke your site, everything's like good February, so you wait an entire year and then so like February you did February of 2025, you nuked it, February of 2026, you are now clear to proceed.
Yeah, well, I guess it's even more it's more involved than that and it's not.
Okay.
I'm talking about maybe 3 to 4 times you're getting out on your site for the whole warm season.
Okay.
So, starting in probably March, once your warm
Okay.
season grasses and forbs start coming back up, that's when you're going to address your KR or Bermuda grass problem. So you might do a March application, maybe there's a midsummer, maybe there's an end of summer, and then the cool season kind of happens, everything is dormant, all those plants go below ground, and that next early spring is when you're looking at starting to seed your plants again.
Okay.
Mhm.
Gotcha. Okay. Proceed.
So, yeah, and then the last category was that mixed category, and that's that hybrid approach. So you're spot spraying that. Instead of doing a big sprayer or something like that, you're doing a backpack sprayer. Just getting out there and targeting the plant communities that you don't want mixing with your little blue stem.
Okay, gotcha. So really not like seems not that bad. So you've prepped that site. You're good, you're clear, you're invasive, you're undesired plant species are gone.
Neutralized. Yep.
Yes. So and you had mentioned either using like a oh gosh, the thing that distributes the seeds by hand.
Broadcaster.
Broadcasting,
Yeah.
that's the one. Okay, so broadcasting or using a seed drill. And obviously we were talking before is that before we got started was that the hill country is a bit challenging in regards to seeding because they are known for their rocks, their geology.
Yeah.
So, how do you kind of what are some options for getting around those rocks? Obviously, you could walk and broadcast, you said for larger properties, you could do a seed drill,
Yeah.
but are there any other sort of options out
Yeah.
there?
So the Hill Country has actually, along with Alpine and West Texas, the Hill Country has been a challenge area for our program because, we've started off agriculturally, so we have agricultural equipment. And agricultural equipment tends to like the better soil options. So those rocky caliche soils are actually pretty challenging for a drill or a tractor to access. And so you're really going to be looking at broadcasting a lot of that stuff. Walking around hand sewing. They make kind of like a cranking chess piece
Yeah.
broadcaster. So you can hike it out. You can crank some seed. Or you can do one of those kind of fertilizer spreaders.
Yeah, okay.
Near more level ground. You can actually just do the walk behind.
And I was gonna say, I
Yeah.
think you can get I think you can get implements to attach to like a UTV or something smaller, and you can
Mhm.
drive around and disperse your seeds if you're not able to get around and walk, because that can be
Exactly.
challenging too. I
Yes.
know I know I struggle sometimes walking because I can't walk on flat ground, let alone on super rocky
Yeah.
ground.
Yeah.
So if you got to drive it.
And the good news is, like, the plant community over time, if given enough time, will find a way. So even if you end up with a big clump of seeds over here and no seeds over there, let the wind and the water do its work and get the seeds where they need to go. It'll work out eventually. And even if you just get a handful of plants to germinate here and there, they produce their own seed and the wind and the water will take them where they need to go.
And so when it comes to so obviously we have like our season for
Mhm.
planting.
Mhm.
Are there good, I'll say, other weather conditions? Like, should you be checking your forecast and being like, oh, we have, there's big wind event coming, we have a front coming in, or, we're going to be getting some rain. Are there good things to look for in regards to forecast?
Yeah,
When to
for sure.
avoid planting versus when to plant?
Yes. And this is why we kind of say February and September, October, because those are the rainiest times of year in Texas. So obviously it's ideal if you get your seeds out there and they get that moisture pretty soon because that's what's going to help them swell and germinate and trigger germination. So getting them out there with the water event is great news. And I hope that you do find that water event. Yeah, I mean, I don't think winds are really a huge issue, especially in the hill country, because that actually might get the seeds where they need to go, which are the crevices
Mm.
where they can be protected and where water will drain to. So I would say target the rain events and don't worry about too much else.
Okay, gotcha. So ideally it would rain, but as I don't know, I'm assuming other parts of the hill country are probably the same where they predict it's gonna rain and it's like 80% chance of rain and then nothing happens. But when it's like
Yeah.
a 30% chance of rain, you look outside and it's like pouring and you're like, it was only a 30% chance of rain. So at this point
All
it's
over the
you
place.
plan, you hope for the best, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. They're native, they're tough.
Yeah, our stuff.
They go without rain for months. They'll be fine.
Yes, especially in the hill country too. I think it's definitely a patience game sometimes. One of everyone's favorite big grasses is big blue stem.
Mhm.
And it's one of those climax species that if you have it, you have really high quality plant community. So people are all obsessed. But it's funny because I'll hear people plant it. Like they'll have a plant, a big blue stem, and they plant it and it like goes away and they don't see it for 10 years. And then 10 years later, the right rain conditions are
Boom.
there, and all of a sudden the big blue stem is happily growing. They planted it 10 years previously. So it just depends on the year in Texas. We had a collections year where I thought the big blue stem was largely gone in our area,
Mhm.
and it was just a rainy year, and the rains hit at the right time, and we made 50 collections of big blue stem. So like all of a sudden it was everywhere. So yeah, and some of those species it's just a waiting game.
And so I guess that also touches on a point, and this is something that I had heard was if you plant your native, you do a seeding and then spring rolls around and not much happens. Like, don't freak out. Like you
Don't freak
said,
out.
like it's give it, I think it's normally what I've kind of heard is that year one you might get some, but like year two is kind of when everything like really like establishes itself and you'll have a better turnout, and it'll just every year it'll just get like incrementally like better.
Yeah. So the little saying is year one they sleep, year two they creep, year three they leap.
Okay.
That's what the native gardeners like to say to make themselves feel better. It's definitely true. I would say sometimes it takes up to 5 years to really get a
Hmm.
stable planting because there's so much flex in what's going on in the plant community. But on the restorations I've worked with, like you hit the rains and you get the seeds in, and there's not a lot of competition for those seeds going on. It can be a fantastic year within 3 months. You can have full plant coverage. So don't get discouraged if things aren't going well environmentally, because it might come time later on, and then there also might be instant success, and you might have just hit that lucky timing. Um, I'll also say, like, when you are seeding out plants, the forbs will germinate more quickly, the flowering species, and the grass is a little slower. So if you're planting in early spring, you might see a lot of flowering plants and then have to wait almost till the fall to really notice your grass is growing.
Yes, no, that is a very good point. Is in the what we like to call the successional stages is,
Hmm.
yeah, forbs are those first ones that respond after a rain. Grasses are a little bit more slower growing. Then you wait long enough, then you get your brushy species that come in. So,
Yay. Yay for us.
um, but yeah, so really and truly, like once you plant, like it's pretty much out of your hands at that point. Like it is up to Mother Nature and whether or not she decides to provide some lovely rainfall to help those plants.
Yes.
And do you ever recommend, say, like if you need to reseed, at what point do you, is some good indications as, okay, something maybe went awry and those plants, those seeds did not do well? At what point do you be like, okay, maybe we need to go in and add a second, a second dose, I'll say.
Yeah. I would say still kind of follow those planting windows. You seed in February, early March, and you kind of wait and see what happens. You should see your flowering species growing, and then in the summer you should see your grass species growing and seeding out. The grasses and forbs will all seed out first year. You should see seed head on your grasses in the fall. If you're really not noticing any of those things going on, then reseeding September, October, broadcasting is a great option. And then addressing it again the next spring if those plants didn't do well, maybe the rains didn't come, whatever that might look like.
Okay, perfect. Okay. I'm trying to think. I think I've touched on like a lot of, is there anything that I kind of missed that you would like to mention? Or I know you had some
Yeah.
slides to show. If you want to share some pictures, we'd be more than
Yeah, we
happy
can
to.
share some pictures and then I'd love to talk a little bit about maintenance.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
very, yep. Yep. Because even though they grow, yeah, you got to keep them, you got to give them the best start possible. Yes.
Yes, exactly. So if you want to look at some slides to see what seeding can look like, and then we can talk about maintaining that once it's successful.
Absolutely. Whenever, go for it, Megan. Show us some pretty plant
Let's
pictures.
do it.
I was gonna say, I will ask you, do you have a favorite native plant? Grass, forb, whatever.
Hard, hard question for a plant person.
I
Um,
know.
I do. I'm a sucker like everyone else, and I love Indian grass.
Mm.
It's just so pretty, the seed heads when they're all together. In the hill country, I do love that hairy grama. It's such a
Yes.
trooper. Um,
It's an
and
easy one to
then
identify too. It's a very
yes,
easy one to identify.
yeah.
They
And
very aptly named it.
then for Forbes, I don't know. I do love Mealy Blue Sage, which is a
Oh,
landscape plant, but also great in the seeding world. So one to think about including for sure.
yes. No, Mealy Blue Sage is, it's really pretty.
Yes,
It's very pretty. Okay,
agreed. Am
back
I
on
on
track.
my presenter view?
So I just see it's not in the, it's not in your like actual slideshow. I just see like, no, there we go.
There we
You are all good to
go.
go.
Okay. So, just to kind of, show you guys what we have been talking about. This is so boring, so bear with me here. But this is what a seed mix will actually end up looking like. So, in my seed mix, I've got my main coverage plants. In Texas, that's going to always be our little blue stem, our Indian grass. is a great one. White tridents and, or actually, side oats grama, another fantastic one. Great coverage there. Switchgrass and big blue. I'll always include those. I also include early successional species. So in case the site is degraded or it needs a little time to recover, the early successional species will give you coverage. Or in like a grazing system, if something gets really heavily grazed and it kind of knocks that plant community backwards, the early successional species will give you a chance to recover your climax species. So early successional stuff in this would be like white tridents, hooded windmill grass, silver blue stem. Those will act in that kind of role. And then I also include some cool season stuff. So in Texas, we're dominated by warm season. So we're targeting a warm season plant community. But cool season can really support that warm season plant community. And those are the wild rye, the little barleys. So always throw those in as well.
And so
Um,
I was gonna say, let me ask real quick. So you have the varieties there, you have variety in species. Do people really need to worry about the varieties, or is that kind of something that y'all already know? I'll say, or a lot of plant companies kind of know on the back end of what varieties would be good in your area.
Yeah, so this is part of being an informed consumer that I'm talking about and making the custom seed blend. So it's not as intimidating as it looks, and we, as the people that select the varieties, will always recommend that you choose varietals for all your plants. That's going to give you regional adaptation. So those are going to be the closest genetics to your location. So that's going to be the plant I want to select because I'll show you guys in a second the importance of variety in plant success. So I've got some out of state genetics versus in state genetics, and you're going to see a totally different level of plant performance. So always select a variety where you can. If you want to learn more about it, look up Little Blue Stem USDA documents, the plant release documents. They'll have a plant guide and it'll tell you all the varieties that have been released. That should be something like 3 to 5 of them.
Okay,
So you can easily kind of narrow it down, if not just two, to being your closest genetic seed bank, if that makes sense.
gotcha. So it's not quite as scary as it might
No, it's
appear.
not scary. And the seed growers can help you out with this as well.
Okay.
And then the forbs, so we're going to do 100% grass in our seed mixes because a prairie is 90% grass. So that's really what we're targeting coverage wise. And then the flowering species are nice to haves. So we add them on top. We basically overseed our sites. Um, this is what I'm talking about with grass coverage. This is Eagle Mountain Lake Park up in Fort Worth, and that's what a healthy prairie looks like. So you really want to have pretty much blanket grass coverage and forb communities in little colonies throughout that grassland.
Yes, because all those grasses are what's going to hold everything in place. Because the
Yeah.
forbs don't live, they're pretty, but they don't live very long.
They come up, they go down, they do their thing.
Mhm.
So Colin took these pictures out in West Texas. This is what I'm talking about. This is a varietal name. So Bad River Blue Grama is out of South Dakota. This is all growing in one site. This is Hachita Blue Grama with a New Mexico origin. So you're seeing a totally different
Massive
plant
difference.
performance. Same site, same conditions, but this is the importance of selecting variety for a species.
It's
So
not that they won't persist, it's just they may not thrive as well as a different variety would.
exactly. So we are selecting plants for our climates, our soils, our rainfall, plants that have truly adapted to be here. And there's a different set of conditions in every place they grow. We want Texas genetics that know how to handle Texas conditions. So the same sort of thing being played out. So we do the specs for pipeliners, for TxDOT, for major right-of-ways. And so we get to see these kind of selections working out at a grand scale. This is a regular commercial mix on the right, a Texas Native Seeds mix on the left, and you can see the difference in plant performance. This is the same site after 2 years. So the Texas Native Seed side has more blanket coverage, healthier plants. That's what we're really going for. And this is what a mix looks like when you include those forb species. And you see that purple prairie clover, some Zexminia growing out in West Texas. Just a successful planting. That's what we're looking for.
Man, it makes me ready for spring already.
I know, right?
I'm definitely like, I like the cold weather, but just seeing those flowers, like it makes me just, I don't know, Ready for spring. If we could just have
I
spring
miss it.
like for more than like 2 weeks, that'd be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
What like temperature wise, more than 2 weeks, that'd be great.
Literally, like we experienced like a month of winter and we're all like nostalgic for green.
I know it. I know it. It's kind of sad. I'm not gonna lie.
People up
Anyway,
north are like Texas people.
right.
Um, so this is a planting I did last year in spring 2025. So I seeded this at the end of February or early March up at the Dallas College System in Dallas on the Mountain View campus. So this was a new high school site. They really wanted like interactive landscape to introduce like inner city kids to native landscapes. So they did forestry mulching on privet, and the mulch was crazy deep. Like it
Yeah.
was almost a foot plus deep, and I was really surprised. I was like, I don't know if the drilling will work, but this was at 3 months later. So you can just see that, that flowering species community exploded, really took off doing work on that site of deep mulch and recovering conditions. Um,
I love that they decided to like go in with the native stuff instead of like it always makes me very happy when there are less like manicured yards and a lot more native plants trying to
yeah.
simulate a prairie. Like it makes my heart very
Yeah.
happy.
It's funny, it's become the new progressive.
It
Like
has.
restoring the original is now
Yep.
progressive, so
Yep.
but we'll take it. So here you can see in this seed mix, the fine textured foliage is Illinois bundleflower. So that's a legume species. They're nitrogen fixing, so a great one to have in your mix. Basket flower was actually native to this site. You can see the grass growing throughout the forbs, and that's actually big blue stem of all things. Big blue stem just took off with the site. And then also some clumps of mealy blue sage in there as well. So really successful planting, fun to see. All these pictures were taken in June. So just a couple months after planting. So sometimes the environmental conditions just hit right and you
Mhm.
get a planting that looks like this after just couple months. So anything can happen out there on the landscape, but there are so many resources to help you guys. So check out our website, visit your model communities in your area to really get a sense of like your target goals and dive into that custom seed mix. I really encourage it.
Yes, no, like so we're pretty well like right up at the 1 o'clock hour. I don't think we've ever done this like perfectly hit it up, but I mean, Megan, thank you so much for teaching us today. And like I said, I know there's probably other things that, we didn't have quite enough time to cover, as well as, again, one property is different from the
Mhm.
next. But I want to thank you so much for setting us up, for making us yearn for spring, even though, like you said, I think we've had like honestly, I think down here in Uvalde, we've had like maybe like 2 weeks of true winter because
Yeah.
it was like 80 degrees a week or so ago. And I was like, why?
That was like on Christmas. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like an 80-degree Christmas.
I was like, it is December. It is supposed to be, and I don't think I mentioned this. So the viewers all know that I'm originally from Pennsylvania. So I very much
Uh-huh.
like my cold weather. And I'm like, what is this? It's like, I want my snow. I don't
Yeah,
want my 80, like, I don't want to be wearing a t-shirt and
it's
shorts
confusing.
it's very confusing. It's very confusing, but we hope y'all got some very great information. I know I did. Um, we hope y'all have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. And yeah, we will see y'all next week. Bye, everyone.
Sounds good. See you guys.